Hi everyone, my name is Tesicca Truong. I also go by Zhang Chiying, Zhang Chiying, and Truong Tuan. Those are my Vietnamese and Chinese names. I was born and raised on the unceded Coast Salish territories in the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. As the host mentioned, I am the co-founder of CityHive, a nonprofit on a mission to transform the way that young people are engaged in the planning, design, decision-making in their cities and their communities. And we've connected thousands of young people across Metro Vancouver with their city governments, with provincial and federal governments, to really solve wicked challenges. And that's really something that I've been passionate about for a long time. Before CityHive, I also helped co-found the Vancouver School Board Sustainability Conference. And most recently, I ran for office in the last provincial election. I really wanted to share, the story that I really wanted to share today was a story that really kicked it all off, my lifelong journey as a change maker. I've always been curious about wicked problems, problems with no simple solutions and that are deeply interconnected. And I know that you've been spending the day diving deeply into this problem around zero waste. And so I wanted to share that first experiment that I had in change making that led me down this path to start CityHive and also to be doing work at the intersection of sustainability, youth empowerment, and particularly around climate action. And so the first experiment that I did was working on a project, a campaign called Youth4Tap. And it really wasn't a passion at the time. It started with a pet peeve that I had around bottled water, to be honest. I always questioned why, even though we live in Metro Vancouver, a part of the world where we have some of the best tap water in the world, we had bottled water in our schools. And of course it was for environmental reasons, but also for social and economic reasons as well. The privatization of water is a huge issue around the world, and as well as the economic repercussions of it as well. And so when we're thinking about the cost of bottled water and how that actually costs more than gas, for example, for the same amount, I think for me, it brought up a lot of issues around the morality of it and whether students who can't afford that, whether they are equally as deserving of clean drinking water. And so that became the goal, clean, accessible drinking water in schools in Vancouver. And so now in retrospect, I can say that we targeted behavioral change, policy change, infrastructure change. But at that time, and being at that age, I had no idea what we were doing, right? We were just experimenting, right? And so we made presentations to anyone who would listen, whether that be other students, to parents, to teachers. And we shared this goal, this vision that we had around a bottled water-free school. And then we asked for help. We invited people to join our movement, to join this vision, and to share their ideas, their solutions, their gifts, and their talents. And so what ended up happening was the Bottle Recycling Club at our school offered to donate all the funds that they had, or the principal at our school offered to help match every dollar that we fundraised. And a friend who's a videographer offered to share our story and to help build this campaign that ended up supporting us in being able to fundraise several $1,000s and to win a certain campaign that allowed us to basically install water refill stations. And so we were able to install not one, not two, but 4 water fountains, new water fountains in our school, so that people would have access to be able to drink clean, filtered, free tap water in Vancouver. But that was just the beginning. We were just getting started. And what we realized, and emboldened by our progress in our school, we went out and shared our message to other schools across the district. And that inspired Youth4Tap clubs in high schools across the region. And what we realized was that we were running into the same challenges and the same barriers over and over at different schools. And so we decided to band together and to create a coalition and to go directly to the school district instead of fighting all these individual battles, but really building a movement, building a team of not just students, but also parents and teachers that saw, and administrators who really saw this common challenge and an opportunity for us to really be able to tackle that together. And what we were able to do was to work with the school district to install new water refill stations at every single public high school in Vancouver. And that has now spread to elementary schools as well, and to other post-secondary schools across the region. And this was a huge victory, I think, for us, and our ability to realize that as students is someone that I think we saw ourselves not just part of the system, but actually agents of change, figuring out how to navigate the system, figuring out where the levers of power were, who were key decision makers that we had to work with, and to really make our case and to apply pressure. And I want to share this not just to share the success and what we were able to achieve as a small team, but also to share, I think, some of the challenges, how our goals shifted along the way. When we first started, we wanted a ban on bottled water. And what we realized was, as we worked with the school district, was shifting towards a phase out, right? Because of the chronic underfunding of schools, knowing that a lot of the sales of bottled water actually went to support band programs and sports competitions, and that wasn't the intent of really cutting that funding. And so it was really looking to provide solutions and to provide clean, accessible drinking water. And so we pivoted our solution over the course of that. And so that's really the message that I want to share with you all today, is that the first step is really identifying the problem. And I think part of that, and part of what's so wonderful about this competition, is that that problem has been identified. And sometimes just sharing that and shedding some light on it and putting that your attention and your collective energy is already such an important starting point. The second piece is to really build your team and to ideate. And you've had an opportunity to do that today, and you'll have an opportunity again next week, and hopefully in the time in between, to try and to iterate and to try as many different solutions as possible, because you don't know ultimately which one will work, but to also ask for help to figure out what assets, what are the strengths of your team, and what's missing as well. Who do you need to speak to? What experts, what leaders, who's missing from your team, to try to seek help and to seek inspiration as well, and to figure out what has worked in other parts of the world, what has worked in other organizations and other companies, and then to build coalitions, find allies, find folks who share your passion for this challenge, who share your inspiration, who understand why you're working on this and where you're headed, and to strategize, and then to celebrate the wins, because the wins might not be exactly where you're intending or expecting them to be in the first place. But it's so important to really take the moment to pause, to recognize what you've done and what you'll be doing over the course of 2 short days, and then to rinse and repeat. I think the last piece that I like to share is just that the most important part of these 2 days is the community that you'll be building, the friendships, the relationships, and they'll last far longer than just the 2 days that you're spending together. And if I can share just one final piece of advice, is to just bring an intersectional lens to this work, and to really ask yourself, how is your solution going to impact communities who have been traditionally the most marginalized, who have been traditionally the most excluded, whether that be from a societal, environmental, or economic perspective? And who will your work or your solutions truly empower, support, or amplify? Who are you building your solutions for, and who will benefit ultimately? So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for having me and providing an opportunity for me to share my story of how I got started in change making. Hopefully there'll be lessons and some pieces that resonate with the work and the 2 days that you have together. I hope you have a wonderful second day next week, and I can't wait to see the beautiful trouble that you'll be stirring and creating together. Thanks, everyone.